Yeah, but sometimes, like, you just gotta
No,
slow down a little
I
bit.
think you enjoy it. It's almost like an energy. You could suck the pining out of them as they're like just wanting you. You're just like, yes, feed me more. More.
Maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit.
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down the Nakatomi Tower at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked ass.
Welcome back to Chat the Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies we loved when we were growing up really that good? Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why don't they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending your Friday night searching for the perfect movie rental at Blockbuster Video? Do you know what Blockbuster Video is? If you answered yes, and this is the podcast for you, I am one of your hosts, Gene Lyons, and alongside me is my co-host, Big D, Dick Ebert.
Good evening.
And each week we take a look back in time and decide if our favorite films still hold up. The movies we cover are chosen by you, the listeners, who generously commission the films you love. If you'd like to see all the movies we have covered, will cover, or want to choose one for yourself, please visit us at shatthemovies.com and have a look. At the end of each podcast, we'll provide you, the audience, with the number of wipes each movie would take to get off your respective butts. So thank you so much for listening. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and share with a friend. That's how we help the podcast grow. Additionally, subscribe to our sister podcast, Shat on TV, where we review TV series such as Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, Lovecraft Country, Game of Thrones, True Detective, and Watchmen. Find all that information and past episodes at shatontv.com. And finally, to hang out with us live all week long, follow and subscribe to our Twitch channel, shatthemovies.com/Twitch, where we play video games, host watch parties, and have special events. Big D, tonight we did something a little bit special. So Ash is not with us this week. She was caught up at work. But we had an intimate moment where we watched a movie together. So this is just going to be two buddies hanging out and doing the movie of the week.
I don't know if it was an intimate moment. There was 5 or 6 other people in the room. So
well, I know you've had intimate moments with 5 or 6 people in the room, so this should be no exception.
No, this is it's right up my alley. So Gene, this week, one of our listeners, Haley S., she commissioned and helped support the podcast, and she wanted us to have a little study group. We're going to go back to college. We're going to live in the dorms. We're going to take a road trip. We're going to go to some dive bars, meet the locals, and we're going to go all the way out to California for the sure thing. And we're going to review John Cusack's 1985 coming-of-age comedy of the same name, The Sure Thing.
And Haley writes in and says, Dear Shat Crew, I found my way to Shat the Movies after watching your Game of Thrones companion show and was hooked immediately. I basically binge listened to all of your shows after that. Thank you for filling countless hours with laughter and food for thought while I labored on menial tasks. I chose to commission my favorite 80s John Cusack film, The Sure Thing, not only because it's an absolute treasure, but also to bring attention to this underappreciated classic. For no reason I can discover, it is nearly impossible to find The Sure Thing online. How is a movie directed by Rob Reiner with vintage Tim Robbins, a road trip, and the best chestnuts roasting rendition ever so unknown? I first saw The Sure Thing at the Village Malt Shop in beautiful Mount Pocono, PA, a beloved second-run movie theater and ice cream shop. And so began my lifelong movie crush on John Cusack, specifically his character, Gib Gibson. Watching at age 14, this film was formative. I learned to recite entire scenes. Can you guess which 3? I learned that flannel sheets improve with age. I learned that life is the ultimate experience. Heck, I might never have given fried pork rinds a try if Gib hadn't made them look so enticing. I watched Gib shotgun a beer, and despite his admonishment not to try this at home, I tried it at home with Coca-Cola. I can still feel the burn of all that carbonation going down at once. Beer was cake after Coca-Cola. The Sure Thing established my idea of what college life should look like. In hindsight, it got college in the 80s, at least on the East Coast, pretty much right, though I was never lucky enough to have an English teacher like Miss Taub. I did find out, however, that several winter scenes were filmed on nearby Cornell campus. I'm only slightly embarrassed to admit to visiting these spots in pilgrimage. There's so much I love about this movie. I hope you enjoy reviewing it as much as I still enjoy watching it every Christmas. I'll try to thicken my skin in case you all don't find this modern teenage take on It Happened One Night as charming as I do, but I'm holding out hope. Thank you for all your thoughtful commentary, intelligent discourse, and for providing a wonderful distraction in an uncertain world. On, Haley Snowman, also known as Shiitake from the Ithaca Hash House Harriers. Well, on, Haley, I'm glad to say you are the first hasher, I believe, to commission a film. So really, really appreciate that. And knowing hashers, at least from the Phoenix Hash House Harriers and my home kennel, the Lost Boobs Hash House Harriers, I can tell you that I'm just amazed that you actually got it together and were able to follow directions and actually get a commission in with Big D, because most hashers cannot.
No, and Haley, thank you very much for this commission. And this is one of those hidden gems that I know Gene and I had missed, and we can't be the only ones.
And shit talk, if you're ever out this way in Phoenix, I am 22 Problems, the hair raiser for the Lost Boobs Hash House Harriers, and I would happily have you on trail. The Sure Thing is a 1985 adventure comedy romance written by Stephen L. Bloom and Jonathan Roberts and directed by Rob Reiner. The film stars John Cusack, Daphne Zuniga, Vivica Linfers, and Nicollette Sheridan. The film chronicles the cross-country journey of college students Walter Gibson and Allison Bradbury as they make their way from New England to Los Angeles, each in an effort to meet their ideal match. The origins of the film came from an experience writer Stephen L. Bloom had while attending Brown University. Out of pity over his lack of a love life, one of his friends arranged for him to meet a sure thing over spring break. So Bloom found a ride through a ride board and drove to Atlanta with a number of other students. So Big D, we always ask the question of what your memories are of the film we're reviewing, or where you were when you first saw it. I'm ashamed to say that this is yet another John Cusack movie I hadn't seen. I'm really calling my John Cusack fandom into question at this point. And thank you, Haley, for exposing me to, this hidden gem. I am 100% okay with having everything this man has ever made commissioned for Shat the Movies. I don't care what year it's from. Just give me more John Cusack movies. And I even bought the DVD as a testament to my commitment to John Cusack.
So you're a fan of 2012?
Is that a movie?
Yeah, it's John Cusack. It's with the apocalypse, with all the weather related, and the world's coming to an end. He's a limo driver.
Does he look good in it?
He looks kind of down on his luck. It's maybe it's the role, or it was John's getting up there in age. But part of the fun of doing this podcast is you're forced to go back and do some research and learn about the actors. So in my mind, I never knew the sequence in which Cusack had his movies released. So he famously 16 Candles. He's one of the nerd friends. But his first starring role was this movie, The Sure Thing. This was released in March of 85. Nobody noticed it. I didn't notice it. You didn't notice it. Then 6 months later, Better Off Dead comes out, and he's a big hit. I never went back, so it's almost like that history was just wiped away. But apparently, it has a following, but it's not as big as his other movies. And I want to talk about the way that I watched this movie for the first time. So you alluded to it in the opening. So Gene has this great idea. We have a Discord community for Shatters who are out there, and you talk about every different topic. And Gene said, you know what? Why don't we go on and we could have a watch party? So he puts it out there, promotes it. We're going to watch this movie on Friday. It was like 10 o'clock in Florida. So I'm like, all right, log on. Gene has a little technical problem, which kind of sets him off to begin with. He can't get the sound right. So now there's a room full of people waiting. The final solution he came upon was to put the TV and play his movie on that, then shoot that with a camera, which myself and the other Shat listeners watched. So it became like a Shat on drive-through.
Bandicoot was out in Australia
Yes.
watching a stream on Discord from my iPhone that was sitting on a tripod like 6 feet away from the TV. And then the more I drank, the more I wanted to be on camera because I'm a fucking ham. So I keep showing up on screen too, like a Mystery Science Theater head. I apologize to anybody that said that. Big D's like commenting on the fact that the audio keeps cutting out. And I realize it's because Bandicoot doesn't have his mic muted. So we just hear like shifting in the seat and coughing from time to time.
Yeah, it was like a drive-in theater.
Like the worst drive-in
The worst kind. The audio sucked. But in the end, it was fun because we got to talk about it. Gene would pause the movie. We'd come out in front of the camera. We'd talk about it. So it was like a group watch. And I'm kind of like, I'm not glad that Ash isn't here, but I was thinking it's going to be weird to do it because you and I watched it together. It was like we went into a movie theater and now we're going to talk about it. And Ash is going to feel left out. Like we had this special moment. We bought the popcorn, we shared some M&Ms and some candy, and we had a good time. So it was fun.
Yeah, I felt a little bit guilty because I was watching it on my TV in my living room. So my experience was fucking fine, but I can only imagine what the hell was going on in other parts of the world.
Yeah, and this is one of the rare occasions where, because the first watch was so weird, there were some parts I missed, some glitch, some sound. I went back and rewatched The Sure Thing yesterday, and I'm glad I did because I have a very different opinion.
If you're listening out there, know that the movie is about an hour and a half long. It took us 2.5 hours for the first watch. So this man has committed 4 hours to watching The Sure Thing, and he deserves our praise and respect. On that note, Big D, let's hit the trailer.
Gibson!
What?
Don't you have an 8 o'clock?
What time is it?
9 to 8.
Walter Gib Gibson lives life on the edge.
What do you think of that guy, Gib? I don't.
Forget it, Gibson. I hear she likes the intellectual type.
So I'm intellectual and stuff.
You're flanking English. That's your mother tongue and stuff.
Allison Bradbury favors a more orderly existence.
7 o'clock news, 7:30 shower, 7:45 phone call. 8 o'clock?
8 o'clock, I don't know. That's when I rearrange my sock drawer.
They have very little in common.
How would you like to have a sexual encounter so intense it could conceivably change your political views?
Except that each has someone waiting in California.
Gib, I'm talking to you cordless. What are you doing for Christmas break, huh?
There's a certain someone here I want you to meet.
For Gib, the girl of his dreams, a guaranteed sure thing.
You want it. I want it. You know I want it.
For Allison, her boyfriend, a respectable, safe thing.
How about a good hot mug of China Black?
And from a small New England college, both are willing to travel across the country by car.
No, I should have taken the bus.
What, and wind up sitting next to some sleazebag? Some sleazebag you don't know?
By foot. By truck.
So what's in California?
Girl, it's supposed to be a sure thing.
A sure thing, no questions asked, no strings attached.
No guilt involved.
A sure thing.
Together, they must overcome enthusiastic travel companions.
Hi, welcome aboard. I'm Marianne Webster.
And I'm Gary Cooper, but not the Gary Cooper that's dead. Hop in.
Personality conflicts.
Middle of nowhere, it's cold, there are no cars, you stay and hitch.
You're gonna walk? It's almost 20 miles.
And don't follow me.
And Mother Nature.
I have a credit card.
I have a credit card.
Oh. My dad told me specifically I can only use it in case of an emergency.
Well, maybe one will come up.
But adversity often has a way of making strange bedfellows.
I won't try anything, I swear.
I trust you.
And somewhere on the road to a sure thing, Allison and Gib just might discover the real thing.
For you.
Thank you.
Embassy Pictures presents a new film by Rob Reiner, The Sure Thing.
My whole life I never had a sure thing.
High school senior Walter Gibson and his best friend Lance are moving on to college, but Walter has lost his touch with women. The two keep in touch by writing letters, but Walter's luck has not changed. He attempts to get close to Allison Bradbury from his English class by tricking her into tutoring him, and it only results in him angering and alienating her. Eventually, Gib receives a phone call from Lance telling him to come to California for Christmas break because he has him set up with a beautiful girl, assuring him she is a sure thing. So we've talked recently on several episodes about nostalgia and even had letters come in about nostalgia. I'm feeling the nostalgia on this movie. Writing letters to your teen dude friend cross country.
Yeah.
It took me back to a time when long distance phone calls were expensive. Like you had to get special permission to do that. And if you were a high schooler or a college kid, you didn't have that money. You wrote a letter to your guy friend, looking at the ride board to get rides organized with others. It's literally a bulletin board with rides tacked onto it. You see a place you're trying to go, you organize with those people and you go there. Now, like, Haley, organizing hashes is like pulling teeth. I have to make memes. I have to post reminders online. I have to message people individually. And that's just to get like 40 people out of 500 to show up. RSVPs, they don't mean anything. People don't respond to invitations. I can't get friends to RSVP online. My recent best with my own friends was trying to get friends to go to Renfest. Now, Renaissance Festival, I go to this thing called the Pleasure Feast, and I try to get all my people at my table together, right? So this year, After poking and prodding, I wanted to get everybody booked in by September 30th. I picked the date of February 27th for the actual pleasure feast. That's how far ahead I've been planning this. I got 13 people. That is my personal best. And I'm super stressed about New Orleans Halloween. Me, Ash, Sarah, our friends Seth and Angela, who are also listeners, trying to get everybody organized, not Big D. And it's stressing me the fuck out. I don't know how people did this back then, but it seems like a nice, like peaceful, like I said, quaint way to live.
I don't want to be that old guy screaming from my porch at the kids, but I agree. I think this movie had me being very nostalgic as well. I was thinking back to dorm life. Gibbs's college, it made me feel like I was back in school. I remember how much fun it was. Your freshman year, you're moving out of the house, you're moving into a dorm, you're getting to party and bond with the people on your floor, you're hanging out, you're making friends. Everything is new and exciting, including living with a roommate who you never know until that moment. And Jimbo is the perfect roommate. He's good with the ladies, but he's not normally, overtly handsome. He's not cocky. He's not the jock. He's just a regular dude who's got it figured out. And he's going to be cool with Gib. He takes his time coaching him up about the ladies. They do a little role-playing session. He's sitting on the bed. He's touching his hand. He's telling him, you know what? It's not what you say, it's how you say it. These are good lessons, and it made me wish I could be back there, way back in the early 90s, and experiencing this again.
So did you live at a dorm?
I did.
What was that like? What was Big D's dorm life?
So I lived in the first floor of King's Hall. Our RA was super chill. He did not care what we did as long as we didn't get him in trouble. So we used to have parties in the hall. Football player Cross. To my left was a big pothead and his baseball playing roommate. The good looking, like the Ryan Reynolds guy down the hall. It was a good mix of people, but everybody got along, no fights. Everybody had a great time. So it was a really good time to kind of just find yourself.
Yeah, I was an RA, surprise, surprise. And I would tell the kids in my hall exactly how I knew they were doing what they were doing. So they would stop doing it that way. So I had to stop dealing with it. And they would still fuck up. I'd be like, hey, you know how I know you're drinking? Your curtains are open and I can see open bottles of alcohol on the desk. Close your curtains and I don't know what's going on here. I'm like, hey, you know how I know you're smoking weed? Your windows are cracked open. Go smoke weed in your bathroom and that way I can't smell it because then I don't have to deal with it. And they were like, oh, I'm the mean RA, right? I'm a cool guy.
Yeah.
I schedule my naps, but I'm cool. But before I came an RA, I lived at Manzanita Hall at ASU. And for people who know Arizona State University, everybody knows Manzanita Hall. It's legendary for STDs, crazy partying. Like it is the freshman dorm. And when I was living there, the top 2 floors, I think, were like women only, which made it just the destination, right, for everybody on campus. But this was in 98. And I don't know if you had this experience, Big D, but you could smoke in the dorms when I was in college. But there was only one smoking room per floor, and that was my room. So on my floor, on the 8th floor, I had the smoking room, which meant that everybody who smoked on the floor could only smoke in my room, or they had to go all the way downstairs and outside.
How the fuck is that legal?
I mean, how's it legal?
What, did you choose a smoking room?
Yeah. I chose a smoking room because I was a smoker.
But did you choose to be a smoking lounge for everyone on your floor? Did you know that?
Well, yeah. I mean, I thought it would be a cool party place. But what I didn't realize is that it was literally night and day. When I woke up, when I went to bed, when I came home from class, when I was trying to play GoldenEye, my room was just packed with smokers. And I mean, yes, it took an impact on my health, I'm pretty sure. But it kind of expanded, like you said, into a lounge. We had a 5-gallon water cooler with Kool-Aid in it, which at the end of the year we found out also had all sorts of shit growing in there, like in the bottom, because we had a sugar mix in a warm tub. Yeah. Anyway, we had porn on the walls, and my personal point of pride was a box of condoms that I had stapled to the wall, and it was just filled up with condoms all the time. So if anybody was getting laid, they could just stop by, smoke a cigarette, grab a condom, and head on out. So yeah, man, I love the dorm life, and I continued to live on campus for the remainder of my college career. It was fantastic. I'd go back in a heartbeat.
Fuck, I want to go back now.
Well, Walter finds a ride from a rideshare board to make the trip to LA. He meets Gary Cooper and Marianne Webster, the couple providing the ride. Things go from bad to worse when he realizes he's going to be sitting next to Allison as she heads to UCLA to visit her boyfriend, Jason. The tension and bickering between Walter and Allison becomes too much for Cooper, and he abandons them on the side of the road in the middle of nowhere.
So early on in the film, they're in class, and Professor Taub is their English teacher, and she's trying to teach them that the important part of life is to live it to the fullest. Eat shitty food sometimes, be spontaneous, don't be afraid to act silly, take a chance. And I agree with this message. I think college is less about necessarily, unless you're a specialty, unless you're going like pre-med where you're going to learn like fucking biology. But I think generally most people I know learn more about themselves in college than you do about any kind of field, right? I know tons of people who are doing something now professionally at a high level that never went to school for that. So she's a great teacher that's getting them to understand, be fearless, take adventures, do shit that, you normally wouldn't do, because that's what makes you who you are later on in life. And I think inevitably, once you become an adult, you have less time. You just don't go out and do it. But as a kid, you have no responsibility. You have no job. You have no family. This is the time to be ridiculous. This is the time to do stuff, to find your inner Sandy, to quote LA Stories.
Yeah, I totally agree. It seems almost criminal that at the time that we're most free, we're supposed to learn the most in a classroom. It doesn't make any sense, right? Like there should be that period after high school where it's like you've matured into an adult pretty much physically. Your brain is like just flying at 100 miles per hour. And you just want to explore shit. You just want to check shit out. And that's exactly where we're being like stuffed into classrooms for 4 years and being like, what do you want to be? What are you going to study? And I do think that college serves a very important purpose is in teaching us critical thinking skills. I think that people who went to college tend to kind of explore their world in a different way, maybe think in a more expansive route. And that's not a diss on anybody who didn't go. I'm just saying it's one route, to that. But I don't really remember much from the classroom. I took journalism courses. I don't really use much of that. I took, bio. I took independent film, which I actually do use on the podcast. So that was kind of helpful. But what do I remember about college? I remember late nights with the King Bee. I remember playing punk shows at like local venues, making friends, doing drugs. Like that's what I recall. But if you asked me to tell you 5 lessons I learned in a classroom at Arizona State, I don't think I could. Well, Allison hitches a ride, but the driver stops at a deserted little pocket of the road and attempts to rape her. Walter comes to her rescue just in the nick of time. Oh, is that funny, Big D?
No.
Think rape is funny?
I thought he was going to have relations with her. I didn't think it was actually the plot point was that.
The man says, I'm awful lonely on the road, and then starts grabbing her.
Oh, yes.
You think that was just the beginning of a date?
I didn't know that was like explicitly his intent, but now I do.
As they hitch to California, they overcome issues with transportation, weather, lack of food, lack of money, and sleeping arrangements, while at the same time developing genuine feelings for one another. En route to California, Allison discovers the real reason Walter made the trip is to meet his sure thing, and she angrily walks away after they arrive. So we get a scene here, perhaps one of the biggest flaws in the movie. It is I'll call it a rape scene.
Yeah, okay.
Where Walter comes up, Gib comes up, and he's trying to rescue Allison from this truck driver. Not a trucker, but a guy in a pickup truck. And he doesn't do it by like kicking the guy's ass. He doesn't do it by like sneaking up and like opening a door and pulling her out. He doesn't do it by like sabotaging the truck. No, in true 80s John Cusack fashion, they just have him act psychotic to make the guy back off, because this is something that worked in 80s movies. But I'm not buying this. The crazy act, that's not going to save Allison from a cowboy in a pickup driving interstate with barrels in the back. Everything about this situation tells me that dude has a revolver somewhere in the cab of that truck, and he is itching to use it. And all I could do is feel bad for John Cusack for looking at the script, understanding what was going to happen in the scene, and faithfully trying to pull it off with very poor results.
Yeah, but we're also not taking into the fact that this horny dude has now had his sex session interrupted. So he's probably going to be even more pissed off. This could have been a case where Gib ends up shot, Allison still ends up raped, and they're both buried. This could have been a serial killer, because Allison is super cool. It wasn't attempted rape. I shouldn't laugh, because he really was getting handsy. He's all up in there. He's grabbing her thighs, and he's telling her, quiet, it won't hurt. It won't hurt. I won't hurt you. And I know now it sounds terrible that I laughed at rape, but it's a comedy. It's a coming of age comedy, people. This stuff happens. So He says, the car is like an old woman. Sometimes you gotta kick her to get her in gear, right? And he's pulling off his wedding ring. He is creepy, and this actually is an assault. So I don't think it would have ended up as well as it does in the movie, but without Gib, 100%, she's having a traumatic life experience.
Now, from that low point in the movie, I think we do get to a high point for me in particular. I love a good bar scene, and we get a scene where they get to this, first motel where they're staying, and Gib sees Alison talking to her boyfriend on the phone. He gets butthurt and he leaves and he goes to the local bar, right? And the sure thing helped me realize I don't need much from a bar, because the bar in this movie strikes me as my perfect bar. This is what I need from a bar that the sure thing taught me. I need a dusty old bartender. I need just worn-in digs, a comfortable-looking bar, a disaffected server. I want the server to not be happy to see me necessarily and not really cheerful at all. And then you need a fat guy who wants to tell you about his problems, and then a dusty cowpoke for good measure. And this had all of them. And Big D had the pleasure of, I guess, hearing me cackle for about like 5 minutes straight while this scene is going on. But I love a bar like this because you just sit down. I mean, like Parasols in New Orleans, the Yucca Tap Room at the Palo Verde Lounge in Tempe, Arizona. You sit down and just listen to the weird shit that comes out of regulars' mouths. And the sure thing nails this entire vibe. I was in tears. The guy sits down at the bar next to Gib, and he's telling him about, Paris women and stuff. And then he drops this line where he's like, I ate fried food for lunch again today. And that is something a guy says at the bar. And you're like, what the fuck do I say to that? You just got to commiserate with them, guy. Yeah, we're three good looking guys. I'm a good looking guy, and you just agree with them. And that's what being at the bar is about. And if I have a complaint about bars, is that now it's all concepts, right? It's a speakeasy with only, craft ingredients and it has no windows, but we have digital screens that show you landscape passing by because you're on a train. Like, I don't need that. Just give me the bar with some weirdos and cheap booze and I'm happy.
This gets to a part of the movie also where we're seeing their relationship. It's starting to grow. It's obvious, this is Rob Reiner. Was the director of this film. He famously did When Harry Met Sally. So he loves the road trip of the mismatched couple where they're going to be forced to be together and they're going to start to hit it off. So they're fighting the whole time. And I found myself thinking back to when I was young, right? I think one of the things you learn is how to read situations. When you're younger, you're worried about what people think about you. Am I misreading this? Am I sure? You're not as confident, and you end up losing out on opportunities. Here, we're getting to a point where Alison, she's completely willing to hook up with Gib. She's telling him, don't sleep on the floor. Bing, bing, bing. That should be in his head. Okay, number one, she wants me in the bed. Gib misses this signal. He then goes to the next step because in his mind, he's thinking, is she giving me signals? I better ask about the boyfriend. How's your lawyer boyfriend? That immediately brings her back into the realization of, hey, I have a boyfriend. I shouldn't be doing this. He immediately ruined that moment. And it gets even worse. The next morning, he wakes up, his arm is around her. She's willing. She's open to it. She turns to kiss him. He misses that opportunity too. And either one of those, if he just took the chance, took the step, kissed her, the movie could have ended right there.
See, perhaps I haven't matured like you, Big D, and don't know how to read the signals yet. Because when I was watching these scenes, I read them completely differently. I read in the first one, he wanted to hurt her because she had hurt him being on the phone with Jason. So he's like, how's your lawyer boyfriend, to basically take a stab at her. Because if she lets that slide, then he knows he's in, right? He's giving her a last chance to cling on to that, right? To validate. So I agree with you on the wanting clarity thing, but I think that he did want to kind of take a jab at her. And then as far as when he wakes up with his arm around her, I think he's like, oh God, I fucked this up. I was too forward or something. And he's trying to pull back from it because he's trying to show respect. I don't know, man, but I've been classically bad at these situations my entire life. I don't know how to read.
You're not a cock tease, but you're just a tease.
I mean, I'm a cock tease too.
Yeah, you're just a tease.
I'm not though. I just
no one out there consciously sleeps with a female in the same bed and doesn't have any necessarily some intention multiple times. And you've been that. You've been Alison. You've caused so many girls to probably sit there and be like, what did I do wrong? Why didn't he make a move? What's wrong with me? Am I not attractive? I was here in bed. That's a signal. What's going on? Yeah, you have done that. It's obvious. No adults sleep together unless it's, hey, come crash. We're sharing a hotel room. If any girl gets in bed with you, it's not to be friends.
Yeah, but sometimes, like, you just got to slow down a little bit.
I think you enjoy it. I think you enjoy. It's almost like an energy. You could suck the pining out of them as they're like just wanting you. You're just like, yes, feed me more. Maybe
a little bit. Yeah. Maybe a little bit. Well, that night at a college mixer, Lance has arranged for Walter to meet his sure thing. Meanwhile, Allison is spending a boring night with Jason when she drags him to the same mixer for some fun. Allison and Walter see each other at the party, but jealousy leads to a confrontation between the two. Gib takes the sure thing to Lance's room, but cannot stop thinking about Allison.
So this is where watching this as a parent made this a different part of the movie than it would have if I'd watched it as a kid, right? I'm wondering what is wrong with this girl? What damaged the sure thing? And for people who haven't seen it, super attractive. I think we can agree with that.
Nicollette Sheridan?
Was she the sure thing?
Yeah.
Oh, was it? Oh my God, that was her?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, she I think she looked much better younger, but I didn't know that was Desperate Housewives one. No, I never put two and two together. Now I guess it's her. Yeah. Super attractive. So if you've watched Desperate Housewives, you know what we're talking about. But imagine her super young, super thin, super tan. She's wearing this very 80s California high, like bikini. She's looking great. And I can't figure it out. I'm like, is she just a college girl who likes sex? Is she just open to, hey, I want to live my inner Sandy. I want it to be out. I'm going to go have fun. I'm going to sleep with as many people and I'm going to do that. Or was she damaged somehow? Because we never see Lance pressuring her. It's not like Lance is like, do it. Come on. You said you were going to do it. She wasn't totally inebriated. She wasn't high. She's okay with Gibbs having no strings attached. Is she a damaged chick or is she just somebody who was down for anything?
She wanted to fuck a shy gay.
You think so?
Yeah. He's like, oh, Gib is gay and he's shy? I'm going to fuck him.
Yeah, I mean,
I think she thought he was a gay virgin.
And she was going to convert him.
Or just like put that one in her cap.
Yeah, it was like, that's a pretty good conversion. If you could turn him straight, yeah, maybe.
You might not even turn him straight. Maybe you tempted a shy gay. Just that once, even. You taught him how much he actually liked gay by showing him what he didn't like, which was sex with Nicollette Sheridan.
Yeah, I just hope she wasn't some damaged kid. That would have been sad. But she seemed down. God bless her.
You know how I know my tastes are changing as I get older? Is that when I was younger, I see somebody like that thin in a bikini, and I go, ooh, yeah. But as an adult, I'm like, meh.
Really?
Maybe a little more on you.
No.
Get some more muscle tone.
No, you're crazy. You're
some
crazy.
lifting.
No, she had like a beach volleyball body. She looked good. Now I'm looking at old Nicollette Sheridan. Nah.
By the way, people, this might come across as me trying to say that there's an ideal body type. It's quite the opposite. What I'm saying is that as a youth, I was only attracted to very, very thin people. Now as an adult, I like many shapes and sizes.
More cushion for the pushing?
Maybe more muscle for the hustle.
Oh, okay.
But Big D, whether or not you think Nicollette Sheridan is attractive, though, in the film, it is portrayed that she is hot. I mean, everybody who looks at her confirms she's hot. Gib looks at the photo of her. He's very into her. There's a lot of fantasy scenes. Then we see that Gib, isn't hot to trot when she actually shows up at the party. And we're led to believe that this is because he's got feelings for Allison. And I believe he does have some feelings for Allison. But beyond that, I felt like the whole situation was a turnoff. Like, I'm putting myself in Gib's shoes, and I show up at a party, I get introduced to a woman, and everyone there knows what's going on. Everyone knows that she's the sure thing. Everyone there is expecting me to just go bang it out. And I could do casual sex if it involves meeting a person randomly. Like, you go to the party, you just meet a random person, you go upstairs and you bang it out. But I would think I need a bit of a warm up to do it under these circumstances. I don't think I can meet somebody. Everybody in the room knows I'm supposed to have sex with that person. I don't know who the fuck they are. And we're just like, okay, well, let's go do it. I think I would have some issues there.
Okay, so I'm going to open my soul here to our listeners, and I have a new story that I'm going to tell.
Ooh.
There was a girl in college who lived on the second floor of that dorm we discussed. I pined for her secretly. Okay, keep in mind, I was a virgin my freshman year of college. I lost it during the end of the first semester. I pined for her. She was beautiful, short blonde. She was like a lifeguard. She had the Nicollette Sheridan body. I was all about her, right? So she liked the guy down the hall, whatever. 6 months go by. I end up joining a fraternity. She joins a sorority. We kind of become more social. I start hanging out with her more. Over one summer, we become very close. I'm thinking I got a shot now. We're moving in. I hung out with her over the summer at her house. We used to go on her roof and smoke pot. And she tells me one day, she's like, I want you inside me.
Whoa!
But be gentle. I immediately went fucking softer than a fucking just like a wet towel. It was this moment of realization that I was there. I was at that place that I had thought about. And if she had just grabbed me and we had gotten it on and whatever, I would have been fine. But when she said, it's been a while, be gentle, it all like crashed down. But I don't think that's the case here because he's pushing her off the whole time at the party. He's focusing on Alison. He's focusing on Alison with the boyfriend. He's focusing on their relationship. He's kind of pushing her off, and it seems that he's focused on her and less. When he goes up to the room, Lance's room, it's more about wanting to make Alison jealous. And as somebody who has experienced that crushing pressure of the immediate realization that you're at this place that you've built up to be something, and the worst part is, every time after that, I had the memory of that moment. So it only happened with her, but every time it happened with her because I couldn't get it out of my head until I finally we just kind of parted ways. It was just strange. So I understand the pressure, but I don't think that's what this was.
Wait, so did you ever sleep together?
No, no.
That's so sad.
Yes. And the worst part was, the next summer, she worked at Disney at the college program that I did, and I was writing her letters.
Oh, wow.
And I know what she was doing down at college program because I was doing that the next year. And she was probably laughing, reading my letters, still pining for her.
She was down in Injun Joe's cave.
Yes, she was. She was. Yeah. So I feel Gib. I feel his pain.
You feel it gently.
I do.
Well, back on campus after the break, Alison and Walter are obviously uncomfortable around each other. In their English class, Professor Taub reads an essay composed by Walter as a writing assignment, which is a description of his night with the sure thing. The girl in the essay asks the protagonist if he loves her, but for the first time, he realizes that those are not just words and he cannot sleep with her. Alison realizes what actually happened that night, and she tells Walter that she and Jason broke up and they kiss. So we've talked a lot about issues of romance, issues of conflict. We've talked about the nostalgia of college. One thing that this movie gets wrong is just pure economics, right? The thing that's causing all these problems for Walter and Alison on this trip is money. And I got all these questions as the movie draws to an end. How did Walter get back magically to the East Coast? He was out of money when he got to the West Coast, so I don't know how the fuck he got back home without money. How is he buying all those drinks and snacks along the way? Dude's always got like pork rinds and beer, plenty of shit to eat. How's he paying for hotels? And then at one point, Alison pulls out that credit card and she's like, oh, my dad said to only use this in case of emergency, but they're out of money. She left her money and her scheduling book in one of the hotels, which Big D called out like from an hour before, like, oh, I hope she doesn't leave that behind. Why didn't they just use the credit card to buy their bus tickets? Why do they have to keep hitchhiking? Wouldn't a flight be cheaper overall than all this bullshit of staying in like multiple hotels along the way? The economics of this movie make absolutely no sense. And I was starting to get distracted by them, frankly.
No, but you have to ignore it. Okay. It's a problem. The movie obviously doesn't care about it. They're going to find the trucker with the heart of gold who's willing to drive all the way to LA as long as he's going to pay for the ticket. This was faster than Hawk in Over the Top got to California to save his son. This dude's hauling ass. It doesn't matter. But this movie got me. It really did. I'm going to ignore the fact that Gib, when he gets back to college, is all of a sudden some beautiful, compelling writer. This trip has changed him. He can now write eloquently. He is like the head of the class. She's reading the story. It sounds like a real novel. But I do want to believe that he's being honest, that nothing went down in Lance's room. This movie has disarmed me. Normally, I'm cynical about all the characters. I see child abuse in every movie. I see that people have the worst intention. I believe that he didn't do anything. There's an innocence. There's like a genuine spirit to this movie. And it is not a typical road trip movie. This is more about when you're young and you're naive and you find that excitement of like new love. By the end of the movie, when Alison and Gib finally kiss, it means something. It means more. This kiss has been building up because it takes place between two people that we've gotten to know over the entire course of the movie, and they've gotten to know themselves. This movie is so strange because it got me in like this emotional place to where I didn't expect it, because you're thinking road trip movie, but this film has much more substance to it.
But here's the double standard. Is she gets there, she asks like, did you sleep with her? And he's like, no. And he's like, are you still with Jason? She's like, no. He never asked, did you go home and fuck Jason? Because you know she did.
Oh, no, but Jason doesn't fuck. Jason doesn't fuck.
That type of guy. The type of guy that's like, let's just stay home and have tea. Let's play cribbage or whatever the fuck they were playing. What were they playing? Gin rummy?
Gin rummy, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, those guys fuck. Those guys fuck hardcore in weird ways.
No way. She's shotgunning beers and she says, let's do something wild. In the twisted part of my brain, I thought he was going to be like, oh, you're going to let me fuck you in the ass? But that did not happen, thankfully. There is no way that the boyfriend is wild. His idea of a wild night was to spot her 25 points. That dude's not fucking. Now you got to let's just hope that Gib doesn't go limp once he gets a chance. Because that would really be a sad end to this movie.
Also, if you're a youngster out there listening to us right now, listen to the knowledge of age here, is that Jason could have solved this entire problem by just laying it to Alison as soon as she got into the room. Be like, hey, pants off, let's go.
And instead of making China black tea?
Yeah, like it would have reminded her that like he's passionate.
Yeah,
you know,
he would have had to.
Yeah, it would have been fine. So, oftentimes the solution, not always, but oftentimes the solution, just get it on.
Yeah. When she's looking out the window at the party, she's like, that'd be fun. He should have come up behind her.
Yeah. It's like a party hat and nothing else.
Yes. Agreed.
Well, now it's the time where we give our wipe score for The Sure Thing. Our Shat score is our way of telling you how many wipes this movie would take to get off your respective butts. 0 wipes is a perfect score. It is a young Nicollette Sheridan on the beach in LA. A sure thing waiting just for you. And 5 wipes is a cowboy getting handsy with you in the cab of his truck while hauling barrels interstate. Big D, we'll start with you. What's your wipe score for The Sure Thing?
So I'm shocked. I think this movie is funnier than a lot of the John Cusack comedies or the comedies of the time. I think the chemistry between the two leads works. I think the movie prioritizes feelings of the characters and us, the audience, over just the easy jokes. For me, yeah, it is predictable. You and I both were like, they're going to turn around. They realize they don't have money. Oh, this is going to happen. It is predictable. It's formulaic, but the story doesn't seem to suffer from it. It doesn't detract from the journey. And I think that makes The Sure Thing. It is a well-rounded and very enjoyable film that holds up. I mean, I didn't see it back then, but it worked for me today. And I think this is a 2-wipe movie.
Now, it's interesting that we kind of met halfway, because when we watched this through Gene Lyons Drive-In, you came in lower, I came in higher. I thought this was like a 1-wipe movie at the time, but after consideration and discussion, it's almost like watching it together.
And we did.
We found some sort of consensus. I'm right there with you, Big D. I was happy to see John Cusack in a comedy that was a little more traditional, a little less Savage Steve, but the forced situations didn't add up. And I can deal with a forced situation if it's super wacky, but they were forced and also not wacky enough to be considered absurdist. It was like too grounded to be fun, but too ridiculous to be believable. And we never get an explanation of why Walter loves Allison. That's the part that bothered me. For any of these movies to work, I think it's the same issue we had like with 10 Things I Hate About You. It's like, well, what do you like about her? Exactly. Right. Like, what is it about her that makes her special? She seemed to me like more of a challenge for Gib than a soulmate. Right. Like I could see as soon as he got her, he'd be tired of her. And to me, this isn't Better Off Dead. This isn't One Crazy Summer. It's not that good, but it's absolutely enjoyable. Like I liked watching it. I'm proud to own the DVD and I'm glad we got to do it. So I'm at 2 wipes as well.
So I think we will incorporate Ash's score once we get it from her because she did watch it. But for now, Gene, that gives us a wipe score of 2.0. So I think we're going to hold off until we rank it until we get Ash's vote. But I think it's more than respectable and pleasantly a surprise.
So stay tuned for that Shat score next week. And by the way, if you ever want to check the rankings on any of the Shat movies and movies that are coming up, you can always go to shatmovies.com. Big D is always updating that rankings. And I actually go back and check it all the time to give myself reference points to make sure I'm not like completely out of whack with my previous scores. So they're all there, all 200 whatever of them. So go take a look. And I think you'll be surprised at some of the scores.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
So Big D, the last couple of weeks, we haven't really had a lot of time for voicemail, but this week we do have a couple minutes. So we'd love to get those in. Thank you guys so much for calling in and leaving us your voicemail. And if you'd like to leave a voicemail for us, you can always call us at 914-719-SHAT. Our first voicemail this week comes from Teddy, and it's about Chevy Chase.
How you doing, Shat crew? This is Teddy again, man. I'm just calling in because recently had to work a long shift, so I did a Shat marathon, and I have some thoughts. I'm going to start by I'm going to defend both Bill Murray and Chevy Chase because you guys give them a bad rap. I think you said you don't like the fact that either one of them has such hot love interests in their movies. Like guys like that wouldn't get women like that, but of course they would. They're both really good at playing assholes, and assholes throughout history always get the hottest women. Yeah, they don't have to look good. They just have to be assholes because assholes always come off confident. That the asshole thing always reads like confidence, and so they always usually get the hottest women until people become adults and are more mature and understand that this isn't confidence they're looking at, that this person is just an asshole. And also, I want to defend Chevy Chase a little bit in Vacation. Yeah, he was a terrible husband. But let's not act like that wasn't Christy Brinkley. I mean, come on. That was Christy Brinkley, and yes, his wife was hot, but she wasn't Christy Brinkley hot.
I don't know.
The best of us would have had a hard time saying no. Mike Brady would have had a hard time saying no. Carl Winslow would have had a hard time saying no. He should have said no. He didn't say no. And that makes him an asshole, but it's understandable. I love you guys. One more thing. I think you guys need one more host for the show because you all are some dark some bitches. Like seriously, you guys are into like the dark part of cinema. And when things are light, like Gene adds a white because happy endings aren't believable. You guys need someone to balance.
Okay, hold on. So we got the second one.
Hey, your answering service cut me off. This is Teddy still. I have a few more thoughts. Really
very
just
dark
one.
answering service.
Like I said, you guys need one more host, someone who's into like sugar and fairies and bunnies and flowers and all of those things and are lighthearted because the lighter stuff gets a bad rap on the show. And that's just my opinion because you guys like tear into it unless it's like really dark. But still, love you guys. Shaq fan for life. All right. Love you guys. Bye.
Okay, so Teddy, thank you very much. I want to try to address a couple points here. Number one, Chevy Chase, yes, assholes get the girls, but Chevy like puts it in his rider. It's part of like Chevy's thing that he's got to be the good lover. It's every role he's in. He didn't need to do that. Bill Murray, we give him shit because he's always Bill Murray until the Rushmore review that came out last week. I hope you listened to it. And that is prime Bill Murray. That is Bill Murray that gets glowing reviews from us. But I do agree. I think that we need some bunnies and unicorns and rainbows because Gene does get a little bit dark. He hated the fact that those little giants, could rise up and find each other and become a good, warm-hearted team that the entire city could root for.
I just want realism in my football movies. What's wrong with that?
Well, what do you want, the kid to blow out his ACL at like 9 years old?
I think what Teddy's saying is that we need more Kevin Brackett on the pod because Kevin is our sunshine, rainbows, and bunnies. Like he's the nicest guy in podcasting. And I think he always just takes he scrapes a little bit of a wipe off each week. Also, Teddy, if it's okay with you, please call in or write in and let us know if we can sample you saying assholes, because I think that I need that as another Twitch alert because it's fucking fun. Actually, we probably just need it as on soundboard for Shat as we're doing reviews.
I almost want to get Teddy on if we're ever doing some happy light movie. I think Teddy has the makings of a special guest.
I'm into it. It. Well, Teddy, thanks so much for calling in. We have another repeat caller calling in about Rudy. It's Tom from Crane, Texas.
Tom, Crane, Texas. Howdy, Shat Crew. I'm calling in after listening to the Rudy podcast. Notre Dame was going through what all colleges and high schools go through with athletics, and that is you go through time periods where you do not have any exceptional athletes. I grew up in southern Indiana, and I was born and raised there, and I spent 25 of my 41 years in Indiana, and I will special commission Hoosiers at a later date because my family and I have a personal connection with the movie Hoosiers, and I was only 6 when Hoosiers was made. Thank you all, and you all have a great week.
Oh, I was going to say something negative about Notre Dame, but yes, Hoosiers, that movie is great. When Shooter comes in drunk or running the picket fence, that is a good film. Gene Hackman, he's the best coach.
Man, it's tough to see when colleges that have a degree of prestige like just go down to the toilet. I remember the duel in the desert when Arizona State and University of Arizona used to be like a legitimate rivalry where you go to the game and some years ASU would win and some years U of A would win. It's just not even fun anymore. Like University of Arizona is so terrible. They lost to NAU. And it's like I feel bad. My sister went to U of A. I went to ASU, and I can't even gloat anymore. Like when a team is doing that poorly, it just sucks.
But I mean, Notre Dame, you're never going to be competitive again. You can't because you have actual academic standards. Other schools like the Florida schools, I joke with Roger all the time. You could have a heartbeat and you're getting into University of Florida. Look at Aaron Hernandez. You see what that dude was doing in college? This is before he actually went out there and did what he did up in Connecticut. But Notre Dame, it's a good school. They should be proud of that. But you're an independent. You're not in a conference. You always get your games televised. You just think you're so special when that day is long gone.
Well, thanks, Tom, for calling in, and we look forward to doing Hoosiers at a later date. And finally, we have a voicemail from listener Wade, who's calling in about Top Gun.
This is about Top Gun, and that was a trip listening to Big D just now. I just finished wine tasting with my friends, and his parents were there, and his dad was a naval pilot that, pilot for the Navy who was working for the Navy when they got enlisted to help with Top Gun. So, and he said he was there for the sunset, or I think it was a sunrise in the movie, but apparently it's actually a sunset, not a sunrise. And so And yeah, he said it was all kinds of squirrely. They were facing the ship into facing the actual aircraft carrier into the sun when the wind was all off, and this was before they had this was after they had the guys on the runway like doing the flagging. They went to this light system, and he kept like letting pilots, diverting them from landing because yeah, maybe I've had too much wine. Anyway, hope you didn't spend too much time listening to this. Love the podcast. Peace.
But I do love the fact that Wade, he didn't give up. He could have just mailed it in, realized, hey, the wine tasting's going a bit well. He called back.
Hello, Shat. Thank you so much for the podcast. Love it. This is Wade again, trying to leave you guys a voicemail about Top Gun. Just listened to a story from a friend's dad who was on the aircraft carrier the day they were filming.
Oh.
And he was the guy working the lights that directs the planes in and gives them directions on what to do as far as landing on the aircraft carrier. And he's watching the wind and everything. And apparently it was just a horrendous time because they wanted to film everything into the sun, but that was not the way the wind was going. And so he got a lot of shit for telling those planes to fly by a number of times because the landing situations was so dangerous. And so later that day, after a stressful last day filming for this, everyone's in the mess hall and waiting in line, and they roll up the doors ready to feed everyone. And Tom Cruise apparently cuts in line and said something to the effect of, "Oh, sorry, everyone. We got a little more filming to do. Mind if I go ahead?" And apparently this officer, higher rank than him, picked him up by his flight suit and told him to get to the back of the line. So, yeah.
And then I think Wade just fell down. I think he'd had enough wine.
So, Wade, thank you for both attempts here. One, congratulations on being one of those rare human beings who doesn't slur their speech no matter how drunk they are, because you were making no sense, but you sounded like you knew what you were talking about. And then on the second recording, we actually got true Wade. So a couple thoughts here. One is, this is why The Final Countdown will always be a superior movie to Top Gun, because they did not endanger pilots. Actually they did, but only 0 pilots, I think, right?
No, well, there was a crash on the deck.
Yeah,
that was an accident. It wasn't because them like shooting to the wind.
Yeah, so you got that. And then also with Tom Cruise, I just feel like that that on that aircraft carrier there was a reenactment of the Risky Business underwear scene, and that's really what I would be in the Navy for, just to be with a bunch of seamen in that galley watching him do his thing. But thank you so much for calling in, Wade. Big D, you ever have run-ins in the military?
Run-ins? What, like with like celebrities?
With celebrities, yeah.
No.
Kelsey Grammer or anything?
No, I mean, it was after September 11th when Bush actually came to the 101st and they did like this concert. And I don't remember
George Bush did a concert?
No.
Or Bush the band?
No, George Bush came to motivate us. Oh. And it was Sarah Evans, and I don't remember who else played, but no, I didn't get to meet him. No, I'm trying to think. No, nothing special. No, not like this, but I think we would have gotten in trouble if we had picked up little Tom Cruise by his flight suit.
Yeah, Navy gets all the glory. Well, thank you for commissioning this mess, Haley, and thank you to all of our commissioners who make the podcast possible. Big D, what do we have coming up next week?
Well, Gene, next week it's a big moment. It seems like every week here at Chat the Movies is a big week, but this one, it's a big one. A young man grows up in the mob and works very hard to advance himself through the ranks. He enjoys his life of money and luxury, but is oblivious to the horror that it causes. A drug addiction and a few mistakes ultimately unravel his climb to the top. Based on the book Wise Guys, this film was commissioned by Sean F., released in 1990, directed by Martin Scorsese. And man, this is a big one.
Who directed it?
Martin Scorsese.
And not Francis Ford Coppola.
A lot of people make that mistake.
So this movie also goes by another title, which is Godfather 2.
Nope.
Well, that concludes this week's episode of Shat the Movies. Be sure to follow us on social media, share with a friend. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram at Shat the Movies. You can email us, host@shatthemovies.com, or call us at 914-719-SHAT. You can support us by shopping our Amazon affiliate link, completing a free anonymous survey to help attract advertisers, buying our merch, or commissioning your own movie. Find all that information by visiting our website, shatthemovies.com. Also, you can check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV, where we review TV series such as Lovecraft Country, Westworld, True Detective, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, and Watchmen. Find all that information on our website, shatontv.com. If you are playing Battlefield 2042 or Destiny 2, we'll be playing a lot of that this fall on Twitch, so be sure to follow us at shatthemovies.com/Twitch. Wherever fine podcasts can be found, including iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe, and if you stop by iTunes, please leave a 5-star review. That helps the podcast grow. On behalf of my co-hosts, Big D and Ash, I'm Gene Lyons. Be sure to join us next week for the following movie.
Never rat on your friends, and always keep your mouth shut.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
Hey, Mom, what do you think?
You look like a gangster.
I know By the time I grew up, there was $30 billion a year in cargo moving through Idlewild Airport. And believe me, we tried to steal every bit of it.
What do you do?
I'm in construction.
He's not Jewish.
Mazel tov. For most of the guys, killing's got to be accepted.
Hey, Henry, here's an arm.
Very funny, guys.
Here's a leg.
Here's a wing. What do you like, the leg or the wing?
For us, to live any other way was nuts. And we were treated like movie stars with muscle. We had it all just for the asking.
It's gonna be a good summer.
It was a glorious time.
In a world that's powered by violence,